Hello and welcome to a new fic. This time we will be reading Watch Out for the Lucky by Too Much Sunshine on AO3. Chapter 1. It was like pristine white quartz resting atop of ash, the bright white and gold clashing in the dark, hardwood floors of his apartment in a way that made it impossible to miss. Still had his hand resting on the front door, which he had just opened. He had stalled after seeing the letter that was quite possibly slipped under his door while he was at work. He went from tired after a long day to his heart racing as fast as his brain was trying to comprehend what the letter was. He knew, of course, who the letter was from. The color and emblem wax seal gave it away. That and the fact that Green had a drawer in his kitchen, the one furthest from the front door and the closest to the floor, that had several of the same letters hidden under unused Tupperware. Green took the final step past the threshold of the door, closing it softly behind himself. He dropped his satchel bag on the floor, kicking off his shoes without looking away from the letter. With slightly shaking hands, he gingerly picked it up. He flipped it around, hoping to possibly gauge what its contents said. Historically, each time he got these letters, they all had the same contents: a firm and professional denial of his original wish. Biting the bullet, Green sighs, breaking the golden wax seal. Dear G. Zelqua, it is our greatest honor to formally invite you to the audition to be the superhero Hawkeye's newest sidekick. Not only has your past action caught our eyes within the Hero Association, but Hawkeye has chosen you among others himself. Please see the attached documents and follow the instructions for the final judgment. Congratulations, and remember, eyes in the sky keep everyone safe. Green feels his eyes widen as he reads the letter. He was shaking, accidentally crumbling the paper in his hands. He lifts the letter closer to his face, just to make sure that he's reading it correctly. Then he read it again. Then one more time to make sure. Flipping over the letter, he sees a list of requirements to bring to the audition and where to go. He sets the letter down on his kitchen counter, releasing a breath he didn't realize he was holding. He leaned over, running his hands down his face. He had been waiting for this moment for far too long. Letter after letter, and night after night, sent and spent, trying to get the attention of the association just for the small chance he would get recognized. This was his only chance. He can't lose this. He won't lose this. Not only would this be helpful for getting out of this horrible apartment, he could smell the dripping water from each faucet, and he could hear the dripping water from each faucet, and the smell of musk and dust from around the room. While he understands that he's lucky to even be able to afford a roof over his head, the type of income the association can offer is more than enough to turn heads. But even more reason, they have information on all the goings-on in Hermotopia Empire. They have the one and only database that contains every known gang, underground network, and anyone who's ever been mentioned in a crime. Or at least he hopes they do. And that is his main and only reason for trying for this partnership. Taking a deep breath, Green dropped his hands, standing up straight. Folding the letter back up, he placed it in his back pocket. He had to get ready. The letter said he had to meet up at the Hero Center for his judgment tomorrow afternoon. It was very soon, but that wasn't surprising to Green. Every source that he's ever read about people being contacted by the association for a judgment, it was on very short notice. Green knew he would be ready for tomorrow, but that being said, he still had things to do tonight as well. It was a cold, cool night out in the city. A slight breeze coming from the southeast that kissed Green's exposed shoulders. Midsummer was treating the air kind. He fluffed his wings out behind himself, feeling the wind through his feathers. It felt nice, having his wings out for the first time in a while. While hybrids were not new to Hermitopia Empire, invented by the wolf hybrid Mayer, winged hybrids were something rare. It was even rarer to have wings such as Green. Pure white slowly changes into a deep, rich red at the ends. Very recognizable, Green knows. But oddly enough, the public didn't seem to believe that his wings were real. Most news reported that they were just really high-tech prosthetics, which was honestly not the most outrageous explanation for his one-of-a-kind wings. There were several supers around that didn't really have powers as much as they have the smarts to make themselves weapons, most notably 77 and Starvoid. Two completely opposite people morally, Green might add. The former being a villain and the latter being a hero. Both, though, made their own suits and gear. Every news station and their mother knew about the super technology that went into each of their suits. It was way beyond Green's level of comprehension, so he opted to leave both of them be whenever they ran into each other. 77 was actually quite a nice guy, despite being a villain. Once when they both got trapped in a burning building during a fight with famous hero Tech, he offered him a mask to filter the smoke. Great guy, really. He didn't even poison the mask. The sides of Green's mouth quirked up in a smirk, flexing his wings behind himself. They had it all wrong, clearly. After all, it would have been significantly harder to get the top of the highest building in Hermitopia Empire without flying. Case in point, the man who was currently clambering over the edge and dropping onto his back in the gravel. He was gasping for breath as he just ran a marathon. Green had to guess that it makes sense for a man who just scaled a whole tower. Turning his head to watch said idiot, Green saw his normal patrolling outfit. A black tight-fitted shirt with his signature blue and orange logo plastered in the center of his chest, still gasping chest, and baggy black pants cinched around his calves. He had his bow clipped to his back in a way that could not be comfortable to lay on, and his quiver attached to his thigh. And, of course, his dark-framed sunglasses that somehow never flew off his face, no matter how hard Green hit him. They were so dark that his eyes were completely obscured. The idiot on the ground was none other than the most famous superhero this side of the server, Hawkeye. What a joke. The two had a love-hate relationship, or, well, tolerate-hate relationship, in which Hawkeye seemed to begrudge Green's existence, happily leaving him be while occasionally having a polite conversation. These polite conversations typically happened while Hawkeye was trying to apprehend Green, but that was neither here nor there. Just because Hawkeye didn't mind Green and his vigilante business. It was legal, and the hero did have a job to do after all. And Green would usually avoid the man at any and all instances, other than the occasional fight, of course. Heroes and vigilantes have a, to put it nicely, strange relationship. Most heroes hate them, while others see them as harmless hero wannabes. While being harmless is decisively not true, Green knows. Most vigilantes try to do good with the powers they've been given. Like most, Green finds himself on the fence. Then again, he is identified in the public and by the news as a vigilante himself, Maybe that means he should support the vigilante side more. Maybe it means he should stop lying about actually being a true vigilante. The hero lifted his head to look at Green with what he could only hope was a glare before speaking. You know, you could ask to meet me somewhere lower, the man pants. He threw his arm out towards the ledge as if to accentuate his point. Green couldn't help but roll his eyes at the hero's dramatics. Are you always this? Actually, I already know the answer is yes, Green scoffed. Going back to scanning the streets, it had been a quiet night. Normally, that would be fine. Great even. It meant less work for him to do and less people getting hurt. But just like a full moon to an ER, it feels like a bad omen when it's quiet. Green's feathers ruffled as he heard the hero shift behind him. He may have asked the hero to meet him here in good faith, but that doesn't mean he trusts him. He flicked his feathered ears while the superhero stood up, walking over, then slyly leaning against the ledge Green was perched on. He went to bend over to look down at the streets. But Graham watched as his face got slightly pale, then he quickly pulled back. He thought it before, and he'll think it again. Hawkeye's an idiot. Clearing his throat, Hawkeye smoothed over his clearly frightened features, replacing it with a charming smile. As much as I'm sure you asked me to meet you here under the most altruistic intentions, I doubt you just wanted to watch the beautiful sunset together. So, vigilante who won't give me his name, what's up? The hero asked, a bit breathy, but not able to completely recover from both the climb and the height-related fright. If you wish to turn yourself in, I promise to tell everyone you put up a fight, he added, tipping his head into the smile. Rolling his eyes, Green took a moment to put his thoughts together, turning fully to the man. He couldn't see the hero's eyes through the sunglasses, but he wishes he could, especially as his smile gradually becomes wider and wider as he reaches back to pull the leather out of his shorts pockets. The dark-haired hero just looked confused at Green's lack of words, but turned his head to watch Green's movements. Whether that was a trained thing or a curiosity thing, Green wasn't sure, but the look on his face was getting progressively more and more confused. Slowly, he unfolded the letter and stretched his hand towards the hero, urging him to take it, all while he still had a sly smile plastered on his face. You know, pesky bird, you're making me a bit nervous here, the hero laughed. Still, though, he pulled the letter out of Green's hand. He let his arm drop, continuing to watch the hero's face. Gradually, the confused look was overtaken by shock, then by what Green could only assume was grief. He couldn't resist barking out a laugh. Slipping off the ledge, he sat on the ground with his back to the short wall, keeping his wings enclosed as he giggled. Green may not have liked the hero, but he knew he was going to have a good time with this. The famous Hawkeye, forced to take up an apprentice against his will without his knowledge. And the real kicker? The vigilante. No, it wouldn't. Not without my knowledge. You wouldn't. Ow! Ah! The hero so eloquently huffed. I don't need a sidekick, let alone a hooligan like you. He stomped his foot like a child. Listen, I don't mind you vigilantes doing some of my work for me, but this is too far, bird boy. He threw the leather on the ground, scowling at Green. His tune changed quite quickly from amicable to anger, typical for what Green expected his reaction to be. Well, that's not a very kind way to talk to your new partner, Hawkeye. Green tutted back, standing. He walked over, gravel crunching over under his feet, then picked the leather off the ground. He wasn't sure if he needed to get it to the audition, so he would rather be safe than sorry. I thought you called me here to, turn yourself in or something. He crossed his arms over his chest, jostling the bow whose string stretched over his shoulder down to his hip. You never show an interest in being a hero before. So why the sudden switch? You were literally fighting in Hermissippi Park a week ago. You broke my arm. Guess I had a change of heart. Seeing as I did break your arm, maybe they see me as better than you now. Green shrugged with a smile, climbing back onto the ledge. Spluttering, Hawkeye dropped his arms, taking a menacing step towards Green. I'm gonna be your sidekick soon. No reason to arrest me now. Green turned to face the hero, his back to the open air. I won't stand for this, you feathered menace, he growled, taking his bow off his head. I'm sure they'll be willing to make an exception if I bring you in tonight. If you could catch me first, seeing as you are currently on top of the tallest tower in Hermitopia Empire. I'll see you tomorrow, Hawkeye. I look forward to it. And with that, Green fell backwards, feeling the wind whip through his hair and feathers. The last thing he saw before flipping over and soaring into the air was Hawkeye knocking an arrow pointing down off the side of the tower. He also felt the heat from the flame arrow whizzing past his leg. Looking over his shoulder, Green could just make out Hawkeye knocking another arrow. But he was already turning into an alleyway, losing sight of the hero. Smiling to himself, Green turned his course back to his apartment, back to the city. He still needed to pack the last of his belongings in preparation for when he has to move into the Hero Association Tower. And that is the end of Chapter 1.